Political commentator and Democratic strategist Maria Cardona and CNN political commentator and Republican strategist Alice Stewart. They co-host the podcast Hot Mics from Left to Right. And Alice, let me start with you. You're on the Republican side of things here. What just happened this past several days with this shutdown that was averted? Kevin McCarthy reaching across the aisle, working with Democrats to get this shutdown avoided. But then the next day, we're waking up to this fight between him and Matt Gaetz over whether McCarthy is going to stay on as Speaker. Does he stay, do you think?
Well, that's the big question. Look, we knew we were going to get to this point when Kevin McCarthy was voted in as Speaker, when Matt Gaetz and his vocal crew of critics said the only reason we will allow you to be Speaker is if we have a motion to vacate, which is one person can fire you. We knew this was going to happen when McCarthy made some kind of a deal with Republicans and Democrats. But he had to do this. If he didn't make this deal with a bipartisan deal, we would be in a government shutdown. And here's the thing that Gaetz doesn't seem to recognize. He is so angry with McCarthy for making a deal across the aisle with Democrats. He's not going to be able to get this motion to vacate approved if he doesn't work with Democrats. So he can't have it both ways. He can't be critical of McCarthy for working with Democrats, knowing that he has to do the same thing. So this is a petty personal grievance Gaetz has with McCarthy for some reason. And Republican colleagues, rational Republicans, are calling him out. He is not conservative. The proposal on the table was a conservative proposal, and he's nothing more than a charlatan that's out for himself to fundraise off this and to make a name for himself.
Yeah, and Maria, I mean, you know, and perhaps this is not going to go anywhere if Matt Gaetz gets this started. It just may not go anywhere. Maybe it'll fizzle out. But if it does get some kind of momentum, I mean, I was talking with Republican Congressman Bob Good earlier on in this program, didn't want to answer the question, even though he's in the Freedom Caucus, very conservative, doesn't really seem to like McCarthy very much, didn't want to give us an answer as to whether McCarthy should go. But I also asked Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Democratic Congresswoman from Florida, and, you know, will Democrats try to save Kevin McCarthy? And she didn't really want to go down. It sounds like this is going to be like three-dimensional chess on both sides in terms of the vote counting this week.
Sure. Well, I think for Democrats, you know, last I heard is that a message from the leader's office went out and said, we're going to discuss this to figure out what our options are. And I think that's smart because they do need to figure out what their options are. And I think there could be several things that different Democrats do depending on what the leader thinks their needs are and how to move forward. But, you know, Alice is exactly right that at the end of the day, Matt Gaetz, if he wants to really put in the motion to vacate for real, he's going to need help from the Democrats. And then at the end of the day, Kevin McCarthy, if he is going to be saved, it's going to be because of Democrats. And so this whole thing, the irony of this whole thing, Jim, and I think what Democrats are going to continue to underscore is they should, is that they're the ones who ended up saving this whole chaotic mess. That it didn't have to be this way to begin with. Kevin McCarthy should be smart enough to have realized that this was the only way it was going to end up. I guess he was smart enough in that he didn't want to go down the road of the government actually being shut down, because then things were going to get worse, and at the end of the day he was going to have to depend on Democrats anyway. But Democrats don't trust McCarthy, and this is definitely going to give Democrats huge talking points and ads going into the 2024 election saying, America, you cannot trust Republicans to run the House.
And Alice, the other thing to keep an eye on is we were just playing a clip from Trump a few moments ago where he didn't seem to want to weigh in too much on whether McCarthy should keep his job. But McCarthy did not give Trump what he wanted. Trump wanted a shutdown, and McCarthy didn't give it to him.
Exactly. Well, look, the fact that Trump says he doesn't know what happened there, I seriously doubt that. I'm sure he's well aware of what happened. He's well aware of the back and forth between them. Look, Matt Gaetz has been carrying Donald Trump's water ever since Matt Gaetz could pick up that bucket, and that's what he's doing right now. Gaetz was looking for a government shutdown.
Bucket.
It is a very heavy bucket, and he was doing exactly what Donald Trump wanted him to do. But at the end of the day, fortunately, cooler heads prevailed, and Republicans realized we have to work across the aisle. McCarthy realized that. And you have people like Gaetz and the vocal minority of Republicans that cannot take yes for an answer. And look, they're looking at, you can get 80% of what you want or 100% of nothing. And he was perfectly fine with that. to have a government shutdown, and that's not the way you move forward. But what we're learning is bipartisanship, working across the aisle, is the way you get things done, and you avoid a shutdown. And ultimately, you do what you're sent to Washington to do, is to represent the will of the American people and to keep the government open and provide these services.
Yeah, I mean, and Maria, I mean, one question I want to ask you is, does it behoove Democrats, does it work to their benefit to some extent to have McCarthy in place? Mm-hmm. They were able to prevent a government shutdown. That would not have been good for the president had that occurred.
Right.
It would have been a huge headache. But one thing that was excluded from this continuing resolution was aid for Ukraine, something that the president really wants. I suppose I'm not, I'm no expert at this, but, one could imagine a scenario where Democrats say, okay, Kevin McCarthy, you want to stay in that job, we need that aid for Ukraine.
Yeah, and I definitely think that'll be one of the things that Democrats extract from McCarthy if they come to his rescue. But look, let's remember that according to McCarthy, he does support Ukraine aid. The majority of Republicans support Ukraine aid. Senators on both sides support Ukraine aid, as does the president. And if we don't do this, this is going to be a huge boon and a gift on a gold platter to Vladimir Putin. And that is going to be on Republicans if that happens. But let's go back here for a second. Let's not forget that all of this is McCarthy's doing from the get-go, right? He went into a corrupt bargain, had to go through 15 rounds of votes, giving away his soul little by little. And we all knew this was going to happen. Now,
going all the way back to when he bailed out Trump after January 6th.
Exactly.
Right. I mean,
and
this has been a multi-year thing.
So you talk about Matt Gaetz carrying Trump's water. Trump has a lot of water, and McCarthy has a lot of buckets of that water also in the last several months. And so that, I think, is something that we have to underscore. We're going to be back here in another 45 days. And so I think all of that is going to be in play in the conversations between McCarthy and Democrats. And what people should remember is that Democrats will always have in mind the better of the American people. What they came to do here is govern. And right now, the MAGA Republicans have proven they cannot do that.
It's important also, the important component of this Ukraine aid was that many of the Republicans do want to provide aid to Ukraine. They understand it's an investment in democracy. And that's the important thing to take away. But also, they want to have money to secure the border. And so there's this conversation of we want to have money to fund securing the border, and we also want to continue to provide assistance to Ukraine. Do we have one or the other or both? That's the question. And what I'm hearing about many Republicans want to do is let's have a standalone vote on each of these and make those decisions that way. But a lot of people are trying to horse trade with Ukraine aid or border aid, and that's why we're having such a standoff.